Welcome to Quit to Win, the show where we explore the moments we have to let go of destructive pattern, limiting identity, and the internal battle to rebuild their life with purpose and clarity. Today's guest is Mathias Lemos Castillo, cultural bridge builders, community advocate, and founder of the MLC Consulting, where he helps organizations build inclusive workplace culture, navigating complex cultural transformations, and engage communities with intention. Born and raised in Uruguay. Before moving to United States, Matthias brings a bilingual international perspective to leadership, cultural competency, and the work of bringing diverse communities and corporate space together as a defining moment that made him realize staying was no longer an option in his world, not being in control of his life. Matthias, it's a pleasure and honor to have you on the show.
Thank you, Ben. Good to be here, and to the audience, thank you for tuning in. My name is Mathias Lemos Castillo, by the way. The H is silent.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No worries.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you were born and raised in Uruguay before moving to United States. What part of your life felt out of your control before that move, and what part of it did the move finally put back into your hands?
Well, definitely, I felt like the part that was out of our control was the move. Being such a young age myself, it felt like, you're getting thrown into a new country. The part that I felt like I was in control was, the ability to start new completely. And what that felt like having had a life in Uruguay and having my friends, my family members, uncles, grandparents, cousins, you name them. Finding myself one day, not having that close tie. So rebuilding from zero, going to school and finding my identity in this new country. Ultimately, always try to be authentic to myself and always learning and reshaping, right? But I always think about when I started here in the United States, it was always a lot of how to start from zero and finding out who am I really and what values are really important to me, which were always, community, listening, action, and making sure that people could be seen.
Yeah, amazing. Which a whole lot of things having there, not being in control, having to be taken away from your uncles, your aunties, and every loved ones, including your friend. It's really a whole lot. I'm just imagining what it was like. So moving between countries and culture means constantly being read, categorized, or underestimated by others. What did you have to quit absorbing from how people saw you before you could define yourself your own thing?
I had to quit the fact that I only do, in a sense, one language and having to learn another one. So the way that I spoke was an interesting way to quit and adapting to the norms and the language and the culture here in the United States early on. Definitely was a learning struggle and still learning, but I do remember a point it was quit the way that I was thinking to adapt to this and then relearn my old way of thinking. So I didn't lose that because I didn't feel right within myself to try to become a new person for anything. I always knew who I am and what I value, and it was more of how do I relearn this new muscle and then relearn the old ones so both of them can coexist. And now as an adult, seeing both of the worlds come together to really help me shape how I see the world and learn more about, both the experiences I had back in Uruguay and here in the United States and using those to move forward, right? So really the idea is how do you unlearn to learn something new, and then does that unlearning come back in a new form? And it's truly something beautiful when you're able to go back with the first set of eyes and say, actually, these pieces really are important, and take those pieces with me.
Yeah, amazing. How do you learn? Yeah, to learn a whole lot of things to get away and a whole lot of things to, look in deep world and get to the structures. Amazing. So you eventually founded the MLC Consulting after years of working inside other organizations and systems. What did you have to quit waiting for permission, a title, an invitation before you build something of your own?
I think you had to quit a number of things to start your own business, but I think the biggest one I'll name is I had to quit feeling that imposter syndrome. And it's real because as a business owner, as a consultant, solopreneur, it's every day you are your biggest cheerleader, and every day you have to move with the intention of, I want to make this work. So that imposter syndrome, holding you back doesn't allow you to move forward. If anything, if you're doubting yourself, right, you have to lean into your skills, into your experiences, onto your expertise, and how do you mold them to fit the world that you're trying to do business in, and mold it so your clients, the people you're working with understand that, yeah, I bring value to this space and this is what I offer. So that imposter syndrome was something that from the start I knew, I couldn't doubt myself. I'm taking a leap of faith and investing in myself. So every day I have to trust that I'm doing the best decision for me, and how am I continue growing and reassess, right? That unlearning is still constantly part of my realm, because I don't know what I don't know yet, and how do I
Yeah.
improve or keep growing from what I already know. That's really important to me.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Which a whole lot of impulses you try to get to quit before you actually more like get to start something of your own. It's really amazing. And also your work take you from local initiatives to national organization. What is the leadership habits you had to let go of in order to be trusted in rooms that didn't initially expect someone like you?
I think a leadership aspect that you have to let go of is the fact that you need to hold all the answers.
Yeah.
And lean into that you probably don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
So quite the opposite. And I do that a lot as a facilitator too, and as a consultant. It's really I don't know the answers. And how do we co-create the answers together and prototype and test and, reevaluate is really what I would advise to anybody that's really trying to move in this realm. And in leadership too, right? Also in life, it's a good skill to have, not to go in thinking you know the answer, but going in with curiosity and seeing what is emerging as an answer from the group, collectively, from internally as an individual, and then testing it out and reassessing as you're going. I think that's the other piece that's important, not just sticking to the one answer, but also how does the answer evolve or mold or shape as you're testing it out or experimenting with others, which is truly fun and fascinating, but important as a leader to understand that you don't always hold the answer, but rather you can hold the space for the answer to emerge together.
Yeah, you need to know you don't have all the answers, and that you can hold the space, to get all the answers. Yeah, it's really, really amazing. I think that just removed the burden of saying you have it all figured out before you go all out. Right? Which nobody does. You just have to.
No one does.
You just have to have more like an open mind that, I might just have to create space where the answers come into being, and having to take the first step towards, starting. Yeah, amazing. So bridging culture and the corporate environment means living between two worlds that don't always understand each other. What do you have to quit doing? Translating, shrinking, over expanding to finally just show up as yourself in both?
That's a great question. I think something you need to quit is really the sense of perfectionism and understanding that not everything is always going to come out 100% right. And the most human and the most authentic of answers are there. If you're trying to lean always to perfect, you're going to get caught in patterns and analysis paralysis. You'll get caught, not launching because you're constantly fearing that something is going to go wrong, whether it's controllable or not, right? And lean into how do we prototype, how do we test, how do we learn rather, and co-create so we can continue evolving on the product. So when it comes to the corporate and the cultural or the community aspect, corporate likes to work in perfect systems and silos, and community is not always that way, right? It's trial and error. So I would say quit trying to be perfect and try to lean into the expertise, into the knowledge, into the people, and experiment, right? Knowing that this may go in various multiple directions, but the learning is just ultimately as enriching as, trying to get it right the first time. And if you're able to get it right the first time, great. The question then is, what else can you be learning, or what else can be learned from the process?
Yeah, amazing.
At least for me.
Amazing. Not everything is going to come out perfectly. Yeah, you have to quit having everything come out perfectly. Yeah, it's really amazing. It just shows that the journey is the process, and the process is owing to the process you get to attain perfection, not in isolation of it. Yeah, amazing. So your work center around creating inclusive space for dialogue. What do you personally have to quit in your own conversation? Defending, convincing, performing before you could actually listen to the way your work requires?
I would say for this one, Benaya, quit having to always talk, if anything, and listen more.
Yeah.
And I say it with all the respect and, aspects that as much as you're able to say less and listen more as a leader, as a facilitator, you're actually gonna gain more and allow from more synergy to emerge, more co-creation, more authenticity from people, especially when you're working with community. So rather than going in with a script and, here are my talk points, cut it in half and see how do you create more questions? How do you invite people to
Yeah.
conversate and invite more participation to happen organically, and kind of shifts the traditional aspect that, someone's usually coming in to give a presentation, give a talk, give whatever they're saying or they're selling, right? And listen more to what are the needs, what's emerging for people, and what's truly important, right, at the moment.
Yeah. Listen. Amazing. Thank you for sharing. So, what sustains you when change is slow than where you want it to be?
But you would say always a positive mindset. It goes a
Positive.
long way. Even when you go, things doesn't go the right way, it says, okay, you learn something. And that's right there. It's a win in itself. But what is it that you need to mend to? If there's anything that's been damaged or healed, right? It's ultimately important. And then how do you keep yourself pushing forward? I think a positive mindset is definitely something
Yeah.
that can help you get through any obstacle and challenges, and understand that, whatever you're going through, it does have an end, and there's a beginning after the end, which is always the fun part.
Yeah. Whatever you're going through, surely have an end. Yeah. Positive mindset change a whole lot of things. Being that, yes, it gives the right energy to actually start out and being able to sustain. Yeah, a better part of everything. It's really amazing. Thank you so much. So, what is the blind spot you see most often in leadership team?
Blind spots I see most often in leadership teams. I think there's a over reliance on delegating, and I would say quit trying to over delegate and quit and lean more into co-creating. And I say it in the
Oh,
sense that, teams can't read what's in your mind, right? You only know what's inside your
yeah,
mind. So how do you get what you're trying to vocalize and create out of your mind and into paper, into a drawing, into something that allows for the team to see, and then create the space for folks to be great and run with the ideas. But over delegation it makes it seem like there's a lot of guesswork or a lot
yeah,
of not creating a lot of good instructions. Don't get me wrong, delegation is
yeah,
good and only paired with good instruction. So if you're doing that, great. But I've seen leaders lean into someone else will handle this. This person will push it, or constantly pushing it off, that burns people out, that burns community members, and ultimately creates distrust, right? Because you're not really doing the work yourself. You're having someone else do the work, and by default, it might seem like you're taking credit for the work for someone else is doing. So be mindful of that one. It really is really where I'm leaning.
yeah. Amazing. Other than delegates, co-create. And I think there's a whole lot involved in co-creating, being that now you are not just delegating what is being needed to have done, but the fact that you are bringing them into owning the projects and owning each and everything that comes into be, owning the success, owning the failure, so they could actually more like see the roles they get to play, see what the measurable result is, and what they could do differently towards achieving the goals and aspiration, other than just having to fill in the gap, not knowing what the real result is, or not knowing what is the term success in for that particular organization or for that particular project. Yeah, it's amazing. One cuts between two culture, two identity, or two expectation of who they should be. What do they need to quit choosing between, and what should they choose instead?
Yeah, I see. I would recommend quit trying to please the other and lean into who you are, right?
Yeah,
The expectation that you're pleasing someone is always going to lead to, not being satisfied. So really the route for satisfaction is what makes you happy ultimately as your individual, and lean into yourself. So be your authentic self, and expectations are just that, expectations, but really ultimately do what is going to make you happy. And if that's not your room, of the mindset of, if it's not your boat, it's not your boat, and you
yeah.
find the right boat that's yours. So be yourself.
Yeah, stay true to your authentic self. So tell us about the MLC Consulting and how my audience would connect with you and follow you on various platforms.
Yeah, for me, it's the work that I love to do, which is, mobilize, listen, and connect. How are we bringing people together? How are we listening authentically and then connecting the things that we're listening, the ideas to action. Really at the heart of it is people and how do we create more people-oriented solutions, people-oriented processes and facilitation between that voice of the community or the voice of the group into the center of these issues or matters. So I've been enjoying this work for a number of years, but for me, ultimately, it's always been like, how do we center people to make better decisions together and co-create?
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Matthias. Yeah, thank you for a reminder that real leadership starts with reclaiming control of your own stories, or before you could help others reclaim theirs, is exactly what this audience needs. Of my audience who love to reach out just for information, check the show notes and see the link to our channel more like one. Once again, a pleasure and honor having you on the show, Matthias.
Thank you.